Hello my friends, let's start this one from the awesome news coming from the Caspian Sea. So this is the Russian oil platform that belongs to the Lukoil company, the company which went under the United States sanctions the last year, but now all of the sanctions are being lifted from the Russian oil. Just, this attempt to lower the oil prices in general from the Donald Trump's administration, but Ukraine applies its own oil sanctions, and for Russia those are damn critical because they're definitely working, at least for several months, damaging the platform. So now it's been confirmed that the platform is not working any longer and Russia needs repairs, as usual, to multiple of their oil infrastructure facilities. It's not the first time Ukraine is so successful with FP2 and FP1 drones, and it continued to hit those platforms, disabling regular supplies for the Russian oil, which is crucial for the Russian military budget. So multiple of the drones hit a very important part of the facility, as our officials report. There was the fire even, it sparked there. It seems like Ukraine concentrated on two of the points of this tower, hitting it again and again and again, and it's very difficult actually to repair it because it is in a freaking sea. It is remote from the shore, so it's not like Novorossiysk port or Ust-Luga port. No, it's kind of complicated for Russia to make it work again, and Ukraine still has the capabilities to disable the platform at any freaking moment. And Russia put the air defense, you see, missile flights, they try to intercept the Ukrainian drone, but no, the drone is too small for the interception. Probably Panzer 1S system is placed there. Wow, it's the first time I see the confirmation of the Russian air defense on the platform. Actually, the platform is big, it's huge, and what is interesting that none of the Ukrainian drones were intercepted by the Russian air defense. Judging on this video, multiple of the drones made it directly to the target. A fantastic day for Ukrainian drone operators who applied more sanctions, making it for Russia very hard to finance its military machine. And for Russia, I would say it's very hard, even with their army personnel. They're definitely struggling and they hire everyone to the army. Let me show you one of the video of the hired personnel, probably for the flag operation and infiltration attempt. I was definitely shocked watching this video. Me, who got used to what is happening out there in Russia, but still, I guess it's too much. Well, let's go for the video. So this video was filmed in the Russian military branch, and those Russian future soldiers were selected by the Russian Medical Commission and Military Conscription Service. They were approved, ready to go for fighting, and they're here to obtain military uniform and initial training before going to Ukraine. And I know some of the Russians, so I may translate it for you. So 95383, that's the number of this military branch, so it's the official video filmed by some of the military instructor who is shocked himself because you understand, yeah, what is happening here. Those are basically bums or hobos, alcoholics, homeless people who probably drank too much vodka during the winter time, fell asleep and got the frostbite, so they lost some of the fingers. Yeah, I'm sure it happened like that before. They never served in the Russian military, well, maybe in the Soviet army.
Так, представьтесь, пожалуйста.
Sorry for... he changed the camera, so we have the horizontal vertical video here. I'll cut a little bit here. So you see, yeah, probably he has a thumb.
Хорошо.
Only thumb left.
Громче, пожалуйста.
Here as well, like, just couple of thumbs. Huh? And this guy is really sick. Well, he has fingers, but look at him.
Через военкомат, извините, или через...
They were approved, and this Russian who is filming them, he is freaking shocked. Like, what is happening? Whom they sent to us? Guys, it has never been like that before. I heard the stories, like, not just heard, but we had the video evidence, and I show you everything on my channel before in the previous videos, how Russian soldiers they obtain wounds, and later on they're not being decommissioned but sent once again to fighting. If they have even one arm left, they go and fight, sometimes even with one leg. But disabled persons without fingers, hired initially right away to the front lines, they can... What, can they carry a flag probably like this, hugging it? Yeah, maybe, but what's the purpose? What can they do out there on the front lines? And they went to the military branch, this one, which is fighting in Ukraine. So, oh, it's tragic comedy for Russian, not just the Russian army, but for the Russian society. And it also tells that they're in desperate hiring those soldiers. It's not fake. It's not a Ukrainian cinema or something. It's not the propaganda from Ukrainian side. This is the freaking real video that was shared on the Russian channels. Yeah, by the way, Telegram was blocked. It is only accessible with VPN. VPNs, they're still working in Russia, and it's very hard to block them. Even in China, you may have VPN and still have access to YouTube. Yeah, China tries to block VPN services, but it's really hard to do. Well, Russians still have access to Telegram. They publish those videos. And all of the Russian military bloggers and the great part of the Russian population, they use VPNs. That's how we obtain those videos, because we also have the access to Telegram, and that is the main place where Russians post those videos. And we may also judge on the real situation happening in the Russian army. Guys, this is outstanding. I was definitely shocked watching that shit. My friends, just a short reminder, as usual, because many people forget. But what you really need to do is to press like to this video and subscribe to the channel. Those two easy things, which are free, they may boost this video and my entire content in YouTube algorithms. This is fantastic, so thank you guys for helping me in this way. But if you really want to support my job, please join me on Patreon or on membership of the channel. The Patreon is in the video description below, and the membership, you may just press button join if you watch me on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for it, and let's continue with the video. Guys, I'm gonna show you more of the videos with the Russian soldiers today, but let's check out what is happening on the front lines, because Ukraine went on counterattack towards Yampil. Ukraine is freaking successful there. Well, Russians are trying to stop this Ukrainian advancement, but I see that for the last couple of days Ukraine moved and almost fully deoccupied Yampil. Well, at least it is in a gray zone, which means that probably there is the presence of the Russian infantry, maybe not, but Russia uses artillery fire and the drone fire, trying to minimize Ukrainian success, but the trend is quite positive of Ukrainian army to move further. And soon Ukraine may put even the eastern part of the settlement into the gray zone, which makes it very hard for Russia to supply their group in this part, the western part, which could be at least partially cut. So Russians will have to use the field roads, but they're sometimes not usable. Now they have more or less good road for supplies in parallel with the railroad, but Ukraine here is already very close, so it is capable to disturb Russian logistics. The idea for Ukraine is to kick Russians out from this entire area to free its own logistic lines, which are coming from Kryva Luka. But here it's again kind of tricky, because Russia here tries to go with the small infiltration attack attempts. Moreover, they cause some of the losses for Ukrainian army near Orekhovata and Rai-Alexandrivka. Ukraine lost one of the armored vehicle and one of the tank for the last week. But if we go to Yampil, definitely there is a successful Ukrainian counterattack with a small group of the forces, and for now Yampil is mainly in the gray zone, while just the eastern part is under the Russian confirmed control. Alright, from this area let's go to the south to Konstantinivka. There are no dramatic changes, but Ukraine tries to stop Russian small infiltration attempts into this city. So far successful. Russia advanced with this gray zone, I guess, a couple of weeks ago, not more than that. Ukraine also keeps its infantry and counterstrikes from Konstantinivka successfully. The fight for the settlement is ongoing for more than a year already without visible success for Russians. In Pokrovsk and Mirnograd direction, well, here Ukraine was successful. Ukrainian Skela Brigade, which means Rock 425th, so they went towards Grishina. They tried to cut supply line for Russians to trap Russian forces in Grishina. Again, similar tactics to what Ukraine is using in Yampil-Liman direction. Very smart tactics. We'll see how it goes for Ukrainian side and whether Ukrainian attacking forces are successful here. About the fire, Ukraine has an advantage in this place. Russia is fighting for Rodinska. They want to get the settlement under control to get access to this road that goes between Pokrovsk and Mirnograd. The main idea here for the Russian army is to advance to Zoloty Kolodets and to Dobropilya. That is what they did actually the last year during the summertime, but later on were flatlined, and this attack completely failed for them because Ukraine sent fire brigade reinforcements, the first Azov Corps, and according to the latest information, Azov sent more reinforcements to the place, which is fantastic. So Russians do not have any sort of the chance to repeat their success. It's not possible with the current resources they have. In Zaporizhia and Dnipropetrovsk direction, fights intensified. Russians tried to break through to Ukrainian positions really far away, but they lost the vehicle. Probably it's a Ukrainian vehicle after all. No, it is a Russian vehicle near Yegorivka. It was spotted and kaboomed. Very strange, you know, guys, kind of strange, because Russians travel quite a lot far from their alleged controlled territory, which means that the kill zone is very wide, and with the kill zone, the gray area as well. So there could be Ukrainian infantry presented in Novogrigorivka, for example, Novomykolaivka. It was confirmed by multiple of the videos, but at the same time, Russians might break through even on a vehicle. It's some sort of the kamikaze attack. But as you see, they failed with that. Also, Russians are trying to go from Gulaya Pole. Ukraine tries to counterattack the same direction, and the Russians also. Because from the south it's not really possible. Ukraine built significant defense lines, and all of the Russian attacks from Stepnogorsk or attempts to get Stepnogorsk under control basically failed. So the only variant for Russians to go from Gulaya Pole westbound, and that is what they openly say on their briefings. Russian generals, they say Gulaya Pole is under their control, and they need to go to Pokrovsk, and they need to penetrate Ukrainian defense lines. So they openly telling their future plans, and actually Ukraine knows that. It's very hard, or I would say even impossible, to hide the movements of the forces nowadays on the front lines. I guess the last time it was during the Second World War, then definitely some of the armies could hide their presence, but now it's not possible. But with drones, satellites, surveillance airplanes, you cannot hide movements of the forces any longer, and even small movements there well spotted after all and being flatlined. 90% of the Russian small infiltration attack attempts basically fail, not even reaching Ukrainian positions. Which means that 1 in 10 of the Russian soldiers after all reaches some point and waves the flag, and later on it's been also cancelled by Ukrainian drones. And what is also outstanding, that you see how many of the Ukrainian long-range strikes are happening on the occupied territory, on the Russian territory. Novorossiysk port again was hit the last night, together with multiple of the military and oil facilities on the Russian territory. In Caspian Sea, I already mentioned you, yeah, those couple of the strikes on 2 of the platforms. Ukraine takes the initiative in operating long-range drones, and Russians simply cannot cope with the threat because their air defense suffered for the last couple of years quite a lot. They've lost so many units of Panzer IS, Tor system, Buk system, S-300, S-400, even S-350 was hit in Crimea, and Russia needs lots of the air defense to protect Moscow, for example, and they cannot defend their entire country and all of the military and oil-related enterprises. That is why Ukraine is so freaking successful nowadays. It was a gradual job for development of the long-range drones, and it was the same job in striking Russian air defense little by little. And here we have a result. There is a breaking point for Ukraine, where Ukraine has a huge advantage, also in technologies. Yeah, Russia is using some of the drones. They even tested Giran 5, a jet drone, but it has a limited field of use because they don't have a constant control over their drones. So they may just apply some of the coordinates and send it like a Shahid drone. But Ukraine may control the drones like FPV drone. They may fly very precisely, hitting infrastructure, the most vulnerable part of it, which is really hard to restore. That's what Ukraine did in Caspian platforms just yesterday. And you see, even Baba Yaga drones, they're dropping something. Some of the presence for Russians far behind the front lines. So Ukraine hexacopters fly very long range because they're equipped also with the Starlink, so the only range is limited for the battery capacity. But the new types of the batteries, they're smaller and may last for longer. Ukrainian drone units, they also may take more batteries and less of the mortar mines, but still may fly for the longer distance, and couple of mines are okay to demolish the target. Here it was that scenario. And here's the building on occupied territory. Russians went there organizing some of the base. Well, not for a long time, because Ukraine is also using aviation and gliding bombs. The French bombs, they're outstanding. Americans, JDAMs as well. And I definitely see that Ukraine intensifies the use of aviation against Russian positions, Russian hub centers, Russian command headquarters. It has never been like that, guys. So Ukraine, if we speak about the last couple of years, well, I'm surprised that Ukraine in multiple of the spheres has an upper hand against prevailing Russian army. Prevailing because Russian economy is still big and Russia has way more resources, and the Russians' allies like North Korea, they help a lot. Also China helps a lot, but China supplies the same drone parts again and again, and according to the internal leaks happening in Kremlin, the Russian Defense Minister Belousov said to Putin directly that Ukraine has an advantage in drone productions, and the technologies that Ukrainian army uses surpasses what Russia obtains from China. And Russia crucially needs to start its own full-scale drone production with its own spare parts. Well, Putin said yes, he is very concerned, and he'll do something. And he promised to organize the military-industrial complex because drones matter a lot. Well, Putin himself understands that. Well, at least he mentioned drones in multiple of the occasions. Well, I'm not sure whether that conversation really happened, but that is what we obtained from the Russian military bloggers. They have this kind of the inside conversation between Defense Minister of Russian Federation and Putin himself, that they're very concerned of what is happening on the front lines, that Russia is unable to propel forward. The issue with effectiveness of the China-Russia drones was discussed multiple of the times in the Russian war channels, but no changes so far, and it is good for Ukraine. And this is hilarious. Russia declared an Orthodox holiday Easter truce on the front lines, but at the same time, the fights continue to happen. The intensity of the fights dropped down, but not significantly, and Russians just a couple of hours ago, they used rocket artillery system against Kharkiv civilian city. Several of the buildings were hit, and that's the problem for Kharkiv because Russians are after all very close, so they may use Grad systems, Smerch, Uragan. Sometimes they do it even on, as they call, Truce. And the Truce is valid till 12th of April, so till tomorrow. And Peskov already said that they don't have any sort of the intention to extend the truce. And the last year it was the same. The truce just for a couple of days and that's it. The idea of Putin may be to show to Donald Trump that he is a peaceful president, he wants this truce. But then Zelensky said that we need truce on Catholic Easter. Well, Putin said no. But on Orthodox Christian maybe yes, but we see that it's not the actual truce, it's lowering down the intensity of the fights. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. And some of the show-off PR of Kremlin. Oh, guys, I cannot show you this video fully on this platform, I'm sorry, but I will retweet it on my Telegram channel because there is the lower censorship. So basically, there are 3 Russians and they're filming all around with the camera showing their bodies. I mean, literally bodies lying everywhere. Lying every freaking where. And they're saying that they're there for 1 week. Just 3 remained, one of them is severely wounded and they don't know what to do. They're in the same position, they do not have supplies, they run out of water, but why did they sign the contract? And this guy is young! Come on! Why did you ruin your life? So, of course, there is one-way ticket for them as well. They will be lying the same as their friends who were unsuccessful before. This is madness, guys. And then I watch those videos, I like always question, why? What's the reason? Why do you ruin your freaking lives? Even staying in the prison is better in a prison than going and being captured in Ukraine. So the logic of the choice, why they go, it's still like beyond my understanding. Honestly, I cannot believe what is happening, but it is happening. Less than before, there are less volunteers and Russians cannot compensate their losses already. That's why they're hiring the guys without fingers. But still they're coming, like some of them. Yeah, probably they're fooled with the Russian propaganda. Maybe that's the main reason for Russia to block those social media and Telegram as well, for Russians to be just focused on TV. They need to consume the fake information that they're winning. And only that is how they could be motivated to get millions of rubles and sign the contract for 1 year with the Russian army. But that year usually is extended. But who stayed in the Russian army for 1 year? The average lifespan of Russian soldier is few days. Just listen to this Russian soldier. Well, I'm trying to find some of the videos filmed by Russians. This one is the ex-Russian soldier who actually deserted, and now he's hiding somewhere deep in Russia, he said. He's helping some of the local people in the village, that is how he lives. But he signed a contract with the Russian army, and he was working behind the front lines, building some of the defense lines. But later on, his commander moved him to attack brigade, and they took part in some of the attack mission where he, together with the other guys, survived. The rest were flatlined. He said 200. 200 means KIA. So somehow he managed to get out. He returned to the military branch, and there was the task for him to go and fight again. But he escaped with a vehicle that delivered some of the food and is now hiding. And he tells, do not sign the contract with the Russian army. I was fool. I was thinking about those millions of rubles, and it was my big mistake. And he says that if you are there in the Russian army, you still have the chance to escape as me. I did it myself, and I'm pretty much happy with my decision, he mentioned. But probably Russian police, after this video, they'll start to look for this guy. So I guess he was just brainwashed and he wasn't checking Telegram groups and what is actually happening on the front lines. Because even if they read Russian channels, pro-Putin's channels, pro-Z channels, they tell and publish the videos from the front lines. They tell about the losses, and sometimes they even tell about the corruption inside the Russian army. So I guess it was, after all, the main reason for Russia to block Telegram and lots of the other media. But it's still accessible with only VPN. Those Russians also tried to escape. This guy who is filming, probably their commander, he said, like, why were you running away in Sochi? Sochi is the big Russian city at the coast of the Black Sea, so they escaped, but military police caught them, and now they're delivering some of the woods. And I would say it's not the worst possible case scenario for them. I saw videos which are way more dramatic to the Russians who tried to escape unsuccessfully. Well, that guy before in the video, he was definitely successful, and he realized his own mistake signing the contract. Well, those couple of guys, they also realized that, but unsuccessful escape. Even Russian military bloggers, like this is 13s, one of the main Russian military blogger, he is making fun of the Russian propaganda. It's like the advertisement in the Russian social media Vkontakte to join the Russian military, and he is saying that this guy, he is not a military even. He has a strike ball rifle and magazines. He has nothing to do with the military. It's all hoax. And if you go there, the chance for you to be flatlined is very high. Yeah, so he says that people understand what is happening, like many of the people understand. And right now they have less volunteers to go to the Russian army. Guys, fantastic news. It was an Easter exchange of the prisoners of war. 182 Ukrainian warriors returned back from the Russian captivity, and 182 Russians were sent back. Ukraine refilled the exchange fund, imprisoning lots of the Russians recently. It is happening like that because there are many of the Russian small infiltration attacks, and in many of the cases Russians just surrender to Ukrainian side after they show the Russian flags to the Russian drones. They decide not to resist, not try to go back, but to surrender. In most of the cases, it is happening like that. 182 is still not enough. There are thousands of Ukrainians in the Russian prisons. Hopefully they will be exchanged all on all one day. To some of the political news, a Russian horse Lavrov said that without security guarantees, it's not possible to resolve Ukrainian conflict. That's what they call this war, conflict or SMO. The security guarantee is not for Ukraine, but for Russia. He said about freaking security guarantees for Russia. And by the way, Donald Trump mentioned those before, that Russia also should obtain its own security guarantees for whatever freaking reason. But here's just one more blah 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 confirmation that Russia is not going to stop. Still, they have their goal to reach more of the ground. But where's the end? What's the goal of Russia? What they want to achieve? Occupy Kiev, occupy Donbass. Like, what is that? They proclaim Donbass, but of course they need more. As many of the Russian commanders even now saying that it looks like a human sacrifice. That's the main reason, to sacrifice themselves. Some crazy bloody cult, they call it already like that. They even criticize Putin, many of them. But still they don't have enough bravery and guts to go against their own government, well, at least for now. For sure there will be one more Prigozhin, who will be capable to consolidate, because the protest potential among the Russian Z community, it is damn huge. They're really angry and they reach the point where they say about it openly. At least on Telegram channels, yeah. And here we have a Russian map from a Rebar channel. Definitely they confirm the Ukrainian counterattack, where Ukraine gained some of the ground. At the same time, Russian forces try to gain more of the ground from Pokros. But Ukraine has an ambition, and it's visible here even on Russian maps, to cut Russian forces in Grishina. Awesome. And Russians are trying to reach Dobropilya, but it will not work. And in Novopavlovka, that's the Donetsk Oblast, Ukraine went on counterattack. Also, it's been confirmed by the Russian channels. Ukraine gains more of the ground. Well, actually, this entire place is in a gray zone. Russians are trying to advance from this village of Dachna and Zeleny Ugol, Zeleny Kut. And usually their forces being cancelled on the way, then they try to move across those fields. And as usual, Russian refineries are burning every night. Ukraine performs successful strikes. For example, this one is in Krasnodar, it caught fire. Well, this is a small one, but not that far away from Ukraine. That's why the strike was more than precise. And Zelensky said openly that Ukraine obtained signals from its Western partners to halt the strikes on Russian oil infrastructure. He added that Ukraine noticed that, but will continue to strike Russian infrastructure anyways, because it's first of all Ukrainian interest. And as for me, this decision is superb, because Ukraine is not responsible for someone up decisions to start the war in Iran and to skyrocket oil prices because somehow the Hormuz Strait is being blocked by Iran and no one from American or Israeli side calculated the risks before starting the military campaign, and now they call Ukraine to stop hurting Russian oil infrastructure. For what? For what reason? For Donald Trump to keep his rating? It's not even close to interest of Ukraine. Yeah, the rating of Donald Trump, if it is still out there. And by the way, about the Strait of Hormuz, there was the information published by Axios that one of the United States Navy vessels entered the Persian Gulf through the Hormuz Strait. Well, this information is not yet been confirmed. However, on this radar we may see a military vessel. According to Iranian media and Iranian officials, it was definitely an attempt of the United States Navy to go to the Persian Gulf, but they were warned about the imminent annihilation, and Iran gave 30 minutes for the vessel to retreat from the place, which was done by Americans. So after all, they tackled out from the Persian Gulf. But this information is again coming from Iranian side. So Americans say one thing, Iranians say totally, completely different stuff. And I would wait a little bit more to definitely confirm what was happening out there. Moldoni says that the Strait of Hormuz will soon be open and the empty ships are rushing to the United States to load up with American oil probably. But if you listen to the fake news, they're losing. Yeah, of course. Again, about fake news, in every of his posts he says about the fake news, and Iranian side is losing, they're losing big. Again, praise be to Allah. He has a tradition to say about it on Easters. This is the Orthodox Christian Easter. And again, praise be to Allah. The last time he said like that was probably for Catholic Christian. Well, I'm not sure about those confessions, concessions, but anyways, he says that stuff on Easters only. And also he mentions that we are now starting the process of clearing out the Strait of Hormuz. So after all, it was an attempt of the United States Navy to enter the Persian Gulf via the Strait of Hormuz, but whether this attempt was successful or not, for now guys, we are not sure about it for the moment I am filming this video. Maybe in a couple of hours we'll know more information, but For now, it's like that. Again, he says that no countries are helping and we are acting in favor of them. He started this mess and he tries to return back to the status quo, and the situation for the United States in this war is not so great. Negotiations, by the way, they're happening after all in Pakistan, in Islamabad, between American delegation and Iranian one. Direct communications are happening, but whether they are successful or not, for now it's also early to say. Well, hopefully the United States will not deploy its ground forces and Hormuz Strait will be unblocked by Iran, but I have doubts about it, guys. However, no one knows what it could be. Yeah, our world is upside down, so to predict something you need to be a Baba Vanga, and I'm not the one. Maybe a China CCP freak like Professor Zhang may tell you more story about his predictive history and what it might be. And by the way, I have one more channel, my friends. It is called Captain Dennis. So here we go. And here I filmed a video about Professor Zhang and his take on Ukraine. So if you're willing to check out this channel, you may subscribe for it. Captain Dennis is in the video description right below. We have 33,000 subscribers there. And I film there regularly some of them. I call it a trash content. Well, it's not related to aviation topic. It's not related to the topic in Ukraine. However, some of the videos I might connect. We also have regular streams out there if you really want to engage in communication, because on the streams there are comments, I respond to them, and you're very, very welcome. I stream almost every day there. And guys, what you may also do to support this channel is to join Patreon. The link for it is in the video description right below. Or you may press button join to join membership of YouTube channel if you watch me on YouTube, of course. Your support really helps me to film videos almost every day. It's a full-time job for me, so thank you guys so much. You're just awesome. And also, please don't forget to press like to this video and subscribe for the channel, because we are on the way to reach 1 million subscribers. This is a huge milestone. Hopefully, is reachable this year. We'll see. We'll see. Anyways, well, guys, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.